This is the Debbie Perkins Radio Show. And here's your host, Debbie Perkins.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show. I'm Debbie Perkins, and I'm your host. And tonight I have an extra special guest. His name is Charles D. Moisant. I could be getting the last name wrong, but I want to double check with that. He is a comic book artist. He is a writer, a creative director of Silver Phoenix Entertainment. He has been doing these comic books since 1991, and starting with Carmen. Silver Phoenix Entertainment works with many printed comic titles, like Myth Told Tales by Robert Aspen and Jody Lynn Nye. Loosely based on the Chicago outfit roller derby team, Charles usually will be found with roller skates at Silver Phoenix Entertainment, promoting some of his newer titles as Whispers in the Void, where monsters and reflections of the seven deadly sins. Philo Barnhart is drawing the second issue. Some of his work currently in production, including Zombie Annihilation, where Dr. Zavin is working with local heroes from Chicago to save the world from zombies. I love that. Danny and Dana in Dino World, which the two women, Ida, Danny, a modern-day military refueling pilot, and Dana, I'm sorry, if I get this wrong, you'll have to correct me, is an African-American woman from the Chicago 1902 and are trapped in 65 million years ago. Working against them are intelligent dinosaurs, lizard people, and Atlanteans, a space-faring race who are stealing the world's only major resource. It's magic done in the Thunder World. A story about giant robots and giant monsters learning how to work with each other and saving the world, which is being written by him and Doug Rice of Dynamo Joe. Well, there. I got through that. Welcome to the show, Charles.
I have joined.
There you go.
Oh, yay, yay, yay.
Yes.
So sometimes it's very temperamental, the Skype.
Yeah, stupid Skype. You know what happened? The evil Atlanteans interrupted things the moment you started talking about them from my story.
Yeah, I believe you.
Not wanting their secrets to be discovered.
No, they don't. But we're finding them out. You know why? Because we're smart.
Yes.
So how are you doing, Charles?
Good.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And but I wanted to ask you, when you were growing up, how did you know that you would fall in love with art and then become, that being your pursuit in your life for so many years?
Well, I watched Yellow Submarine as a kid, and I wanted to be a cartoon.
Wow.
And when I got older, I realized, I can't be a cartoon, so I have to make a cartoon. I thought that would be so much fun.
What was the first cartoon you ever successfully completed and actually made it a character?
Well, at first as a kid, after you draw yourself as a cartoon, and then it can evolve into something, and it evolved, in this case, it developed into two characters. One was called Kremen, who's a transphase dimensional hopper. He travels between dimensions to prevent reality destruction. And the other parallel was Philip Gray, investigator of strange phenomena, where he is basically a high-end paranormalist. On his universe, I decided that Kremen and Philip were born as twins, but on their different worlds, the twin was a stillborn. So Philip was almost dead, and a dark hexen decided to raid the morgue to get some fresh baby's fat for a spell of invisibility so she can fly back to Europe because she'd done her nefarious deeds. And as she was starting to preparing the body, the other baby barely stirred and she realized she could be a mother, because one of the legends I do have with my dark witches in my world is that the eggs.
Hello? Debbie, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I hear you, Charles.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me still?
Yeah, you just kind of dropped off. Are you close to your router?
Yeah. Hold on. Well,
Okay.
I'm on my phone now. Let me switch back to my computer. So I'm
Okay.
going to try to join again. And I'm going to log out of the phone.
No. Why don't we wait until break to do that? We have like 10 more minutes, and then we can go to break. But we're okay right now.
So with Kremen, which this is really interesting, that was your first. So that like a dark comic for the first time for you? Or did I lose him?
I think he logged off his phone and went to his computer.
Yeah. Just be patient, everybody. We'll get him back. We'll have plenty to talk about, at least, during the show. This is a first for me. So you gotta roll with it. We roll with it. That's all you can do. But I mean, I've heard of his programs, so he does know to join. I hope. All right. Maybe it takes him a minute. What time is it right now? So, okay. Well, we got 10 minutes.
Well, it's too early for a break, so we got to keep going.
Yeah, it is. But for everybody that, you know what? I got a little news anyways. I got to be at 3 different Paracons this year. 2 of them are in Maine. One of them is in Maine, New Hampshire, but that's not till next year, in April. But the 2 that I got invited to up here, one's going to be in Portland, and there's supposed to be some celebrities at that one. Should be interesting. I get to have a table, so if anybody's around, they can pop in and say hi. I'm going to be at another one in October. It's going to be in the old mill.
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh, all right. I was just telling people in on something I'm doing. But yes, this is going to be exciting.
They're like, my God, the worst interview ever.
No, we'll fix this. Don't worry about it. We just have to, it's one thing. You just got to keep going, and that's all.
Okay. Where was I last at?
We were just talking about when you were younger and you created Hermit, and you kept, and you were talking about the witches, and you were talking about the story. Yeah.
So the legend that I have is a dark witch. Depending on how hard the magics are and the more nefarious they are, literally burn out their eggs. So you can have a 20-year-old reach menopause if she really does a lot of bad magic and dark stuff and things like that. Once the eggs are burned out, there is almost an insane need to have a child. And, of course, it's never stated because of what they are and being a servant to the dark masters, to it or that. And a lot of them don't care, but they still have that just almost insane desire, which causes them to hate babies and stuff like that because they don't have one of their own. So when Philip's, quote, adopted mother, found, the 2 babies and Philip was stirring, she realized she could have a baby finally. And so she did a spell to bind a soul to it, and she just assumed that it would be a demon or something. And usually that's why serial killers happen, because of a witch raising. But because the soul of his twin brother was close by, the soul of his twin inhabited the body to assist the strength of the original soul, which makes the body stronger, instead of something dark, something nefarious or weird. And so Philip, became very healthy. And then the witch stopped doing magic because she realized, she's breaking all the rules. And raised Philip normally and was, really happy to be a mom and tried to hide all of her sins and things like that until something happened and Philip started to learn magic and understand it, and he had a very strong aptitude to it because he had double souls. In fact, when he gets knocked out sometimes, the underconscious, which is where the undersoul relies, may wake up and may do things to help him. He's also ambidextrous as a result of that, and is psychically strong. For example, if he encounters a ghost, he could see it as well as I could see you or me, and if the ghost punches him, he'll feel physical damage, but he could also punch the ghost back, which freaks the ghost out, and often the ghost won't fight because they're not used to pain. So, so that story delves around him investigating strange phenomena and paranormal things and weird stuff. So that was an early
interesting story. It's like you stretched so many different directions in that storyline for each character, and it's almost like each character has their own life, but yet it comes back around in circle to the main story.
Yeah, so people can have fun. Kremen, on the other hand,
really is. You took my mind off into another world, literally, and you're like a really amazing storyteller.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You are fun.
It amazes me that just the depths of, it's one thing to be a writer. It's another thing to write something that people can vision in their head. And
I'm a creator.
When you started doing this, did people start responding to you in ways of like, I can't believe that you've hit it at home every time?
Yeah. I mean, there was one thing I wrote, and there were some women who were victims of physical violence. Became very, I haven't fully illustrated it, but they've read the script, and this helped get them through the tough time when they were physically violated. What I wrote for the character, her name is Nagusami Omocho, was Jerry wanted to do something I was not ready for. I said no with a darting slap. In response, he grabbed my throat and repeatedly slammed my head against the radiator. This turned my no into a pleading yes. As he entered me, hate and distrust screamed through my soul. With the feeling of gray babies wrapped around my spine, I begged for release. When it was over, I convinced myself he had the right to do it. I mean, he is my boyfriend, right? He did say he loved me, right? From that day on, things got worse. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very, almost emotional. Even with you reading it, I kind of got that feeling of what it would be like to be that woman.
Yeah.
Even for a moment.
That I did not write that. And I'm like, no, I wrote that, but you're a guy. I'm like, so?
But the whole thing is, your whole life you've known women.
Yeah, obviously.
So, I mean, it's we really can't pick each other's minds, but you still understand feeling and spiritual energy.
Yes, that is true. By the way, you are fun and amazing. Never forget that. So basically,
you make me blush, but yeah. I love that. I love that. You know what? You need to always be at least smiling or try to enjoy some parts of life. And what from some of your work, because you're really funny, what are some of the comics that you've done that have just literally made people laugh until their bellies hurt?
Oh, well, that would be more in comedy, and I tend to do more horror. So people might laugh at the visceral destruction of things. But, I've done some Kremen stuff. Kremen is the superhero comics, and that tended to be a little more tongue-in-cheek, where Kremen, works to stop reality collapse, as I mentioned before. He travels from parallel universe to parallel universe, and he also has an ability called quantum will. So if you touch something in reality X and he's in reality R, he can reach behind him, and because he believes it so much that he has the object there, he's able to pull it out from another dimension. It's taking a little twist on the Schrodinger's cat. Imagine if you had the Schrodinger's cat box. If you don't know the hypothesis, if you put a cat in a box that's airtight and come back the next day, is it dead? Now, logic tells you it should be dead because the oxygen ran out, but it might not be. And until you open the box, that cat is still alive. And if you open the box, it might be alive, or it might be dead. Well, imagine if you had a box and you were told there was a cat dying in there, and there was never a cat in there, but you believed it so much. When you open the box, would there actually be a cat in there because your belief was so strong? But imagine that as a power.
Like a manifestation, like a magic manifestation, like he manifests it, and it's there. And that's really cool. That's really cool. I always wondered how superheroes, they decided what would make them, and what would they give them for specific special powers, I guess, because superheroes have something. Who's your favorite villain of all time?
Let me just think. I'd have to do some carte blanche. I think Ramon Tuccarabano's Khan character, because he was one of the few who was almost able to outflank Kirk, and only because Kirk is good at cheating, he was able to beat Khan. So basically, what the lesson is if it really comes to war, do everything in your power to win instead of, quote, play by any rules.
That's good, but I think that there's always that higher up guy that's gonna militarize everything, and bada bing, bada boom. You're following the trend, and you have to by protocol.
So I've heard different stories. Some people think aliens are actually demons, and others think that is actually aliens. And what is your opinion from what you've researched?
Don't think they're demons. I think they're beings. And I believe that they've been here forever.
Yeah.
And we see what we can see. Maybe they're dimensional. I almost think we talked about this once on a show with a gentleman. Mark, can you step in here for a minute?
Yep, Jack Carey.
Yes, we were talking with Jack.
Now stepping in.
And remember Jack's talking about the interdimensional beings.
Well, some of them. He believes that there could be a lot of different things.
Yeah.
With that. And so do I.
Which is really interesting because, an alien can be the stretch of any mind, because it could be dimensional and or maybe we don't even see it. Maybe it is and there are people that believe that spirit ghost could be. We talked about that too, being a being and just very well cloaked. It blends in with the nature of its surroundings.
Yeah.
Whether it's up against a brick wall or if it's against a wooded background or a mountain scenic, maybe their body turns into little mirrors and they have that cloaking device that we can't see, like a Harry Potter cloak.
Yes.
But I just, I don't know enough. I just have met people in the UFO industry and very famous people, but it's so hard unless you are that witness.
Yes. I mean, it's such interesting hypotheses that go on, ranging from people thinking we are, quote, what is that? A matrix thing where it's all a simulation, all the way to we are reflections of a universe that's already dead. We're just information bouncing around inside of a black hole. To we're just what we are, and nothing else is weird about it.
Well, yeah, we're already history, light years away in other planets across the galaxy. We're already dead, and we're already history. Maybe they'll hear the podcast. You never know, that's what you get. Maybe they're listening live. You never know, Charles. We could be very well tapping into, hey, we need to know information. And, the more we learn, I think, as now that the government has allowed us to understand about it, we may learn a little more, hopefully, because there's so many people out there looking up at the sky now. Way more people looking at the sky than ever used to be, even though for gazillions of centuries we've heard nothing but, about the Sumerians and about, the giants and, and all the different, the Greys and you name it, the different breeds. And there are people that study all that, and which is really great for the conventions. I say anybody that is interested in it, go to a UFO convention.
Oh,
you never do nothing but learn the most amazing information. Let me take a really quick break, Charles, and we'll come back and talk a lot more about some of this amazing stuff.
Awesome.
All right, Mark, we're going to go to break real quick, and then we're going to come back. Stay with us, everybody.
Okay. Wow, sorry about the chaotic beginning. My God.
Hold on, guys.
All right. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Hollywood Red Carpet Radio Show, and I'm Debbie Perkins, and I'm here talking with Charles Moisant. And he is an amazing artist, Silver Phoenix Productions. Now, I was going to ask you, because I love the name of the Silver Phoenix, and I know I've heard it before for years. Yes. What inspired you to name your company such a great name?
Crashing and burning multiple times with things. Okay. So I thought, rising like the phoenix, and I don't want to be gold. So because gold is always number one, and if you're number two, it's so much people don't try to shoot for you. People shoot for number one all the time. So it's like, okay, I'll do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I love that you said you burned out and then came back.
Yeah.
Now I know that in your field of art, you've been working since 1991. That's a really long time now.
Yeah, I was with Crumman, Transphase Dimensional Hopper. There was a creature called the Entity who Crumman would be battling, and these two factions were fighting. One would corrupt key worlds to make sure that the worlds exist, while the other works to destroy certain key worlds and realities to cause reality collapse because they feel all other realities are a corruption and only their reality should be the real one. So it's basically a multiverse destroyer, the Entity. And I made her look like a galaxy.
Do you dream these books before you make them? Is it something in your...
It just starts coming out, as a fact. In fact, there's this one character that I have, Sylvia Madrone. And this woman is so brilliant. She actually figured out an algorithm to calculate lottery numbers with a 27.4% accuracy, which is very good, especially under the chaos. Like, she was so meticulous, she figured out the paint, so she was able to calculate the microscale of the paint, the wind speed of the balls, the bouncing vectors. And from there, 24.7% accuracy is very correct. She waited until the lottery got really big and almost became a multi-billionaire. Then she created her own cryptocurrency. She crashed the others, and she ended up being worth $27.4 trillion. From there, she collected a group of people who suffer from identical night terrors, and she's very, very believing in, like, bump in the night, spooks, vampires, all the weird stuff, but she's never been able to find empirical proof. She's so powerful, she can make or break presidents, get them in office or out of office, highly manipulative. She's a borderline sociopath, but she's also has a sense of kindness. And she figured out something from the night terrors of these, group of people, that there's something coming, a world destroyer. So using a mixture of alchemy, a accidental prick of her own blood, a formula of the high metals and the noble gases, created a giant robot to stop what's coming. And if she, and she nearly spent her entire fortune on it. And I've had people ask me, wow, how'd you find out about her? Oh, I haven't heard about her, or I have heard about her. And no, I made her up. But people,
That's awesome.
when I story tell them, they think that I'm telling them fact. It's really weird.
Sounds like a real person.
Right.
It really does. I'm so I can vision her as well. And how cool is that? I really, and you know what? The way you tell the story, it just sounds like a real human being who's going through these things, and she created this monster, but not. Is he a monster or is he?
No, it's a giant robot. Well, actually, I would say the Dark Zones sent this thing. The aliens were involved, and aliens. This certain sect of aliens, I don't have a name for them, need Earth to be as least corrupted as possible, because basically for higher calculation, they actually use planets as a checksum. And if you understand computers, if your checksum is corrupted, you cannot start your computer. So if Earth gets truly corrupted, it cannot start their higher calculations they need, higher dimensional calculations. So the Earth, for the most part, needs to be what it is. So they calculated that could the checksum, or could the Earth still existing with giant monsters and giant robots, still work for what they need to calculate? And they decided yes. So they sent these dreams to the people, but because they weren't higher plane like they were, they only interpreted them as nightmares. And the first creature that Ragnarok fire battles, and I could send you an image. I'll send you an image on Facebook for Ragnarok. Yeah. This creature screams, and when people hear it screams, they spontaneously commit suicide. And imagine this thing the size of half a skyscraper, and imagine almost a skyscraper's worth of people just walking to the roof and just walking off because of the sound. It's so, in their mind, so horrific, so bone chilling. And those who have enough strength of will who resist it, the monster then stops the screaming and then starts waving tentacles behind it. Meanwhile, thousands of mouths open up on its arms, and the souls, the energies of the people are ripped out and devoured by the creature. And that's when Ragnarok comes to battle. And the reason why it's not affected by either its scream or the soul rip is because all the pilots pilot Ragnarok through remote viewing. And so their souls are not in there. And because the remote viewing is on a different frequency, a different plane, the monster cannot harm them per se. And we're able to defeat the scout, fortunately. Otherwise, the beginning of the end of our world would have happened.
That's awesome.
So
oh my gosh. Yeah. Now, is Ragnarok, is that a Viking type?
Well, Sylvia is Norse and Swedish, who live in America. And her name is Sylvia Madrome, which literally translates to Nightmare from the Forest. And
okay, cool.
and she's creepily smart. She's able to put most people in a fugue state to where she can manipulate them. The only time she has real trouble manipulating is with gay men. And it's not pejorative to gay men, but it's because her tactics, her tricks and whatnot usually doesn't work on them. And being female, it can be very tough. So she has to be highly manipulative. But she's able to usually calculate what you're going to say, reactions, body reactions. She looks at cues, can counter cues, things like that. If she were a spy, she'd be amazing. But her intelligence rivals Einstein type thing. And she is a scientist, and she's just extremely smart.
What an incredible character. Yeah. I almost believe she's real too. Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
A model-esque woman with blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin that almost looks like a vampire. And
but then that could go back to the Basque.
Yeah.
So,
most people don't know about the Basque.
They don't know about. No, they don't. I learned about them.
Yeah, they have their own language that's not even related to Latin.
Isn't that wild?
Yes.
It's like their own segregation of their own people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because they're Swedish, Norwegian, or I don't. It's a combination, I think, but they're a very rare group. They got that special blood type.
Yeah.
That's how they're defined, and it's really interesting when you learn about the people.
Yeah.
But
what's your blood type?
mine, I'm A negative.
Mark, what's yours?
B pause.
B positive?
Yep.
So am I. So we're part of the 10%. Interesting.
I'm RH negative, so I'm part of the other end.
Yes, so our blood will kill you, and your blood will kill you.
Well, actually, it probably would. If I had a child, it would be more detrimental then. But
Yeah.
I think that's why there was in the RH negative people, they had to interbreed because the children of the A mixing with the negative would be death. It's a death sentence.
Now you're Swedish yourself, correct?
I'm sorry?
You're Swedish yourself and Norwegian?
I am Norwegian,
So
Swedish.
my mother, and so Sylvia Drome.
The heck else. Mostly northern England. Mostly northern England. A little bit of Welsh, Scottish, a little 10% Irish.
Nice.
Mostly all. Yeah. But pretty interesting about that character because I totally buy it with her having that pure white skin, and they really are. But then they also believe that that light colored blonde woman, being their eyes are very bright blue or almost white, that is an alien race.
Oh, yeah, the Nordics.
Which is pretty interesting when you look at them and then you look at the blondes, you know. I think that we all kind of resemble one another. I was asked once if I was German because
really?
I had such a look. Yeah. I was a professor and I looked at him and I had no idea that I knew I had Norwegian in me, but I had no idea about all the Swedish and all the extra people. And it was like, till I did the ancestry, but it was really interesting. It's real, but anyways, so, let's get back to some of the characters that you've created.
Okay.
Who is your most inspirational character that you have created, the most recent?
Probably Ilka.
Can you describe that character?
Ilka? Oh, yeah. Ilka is a bastard princess. And her deal, is there's a dark evil king, and I'm actually making a comic book series based off of this, known as the Cockerel's Fist. I'm also developing a board game known as the Ultimate Adventure of the Cockerel's Fist. Now, Cockerel...
Wow. Oh, wow. These are going to turn it into a movie, too. You watch. This is a crazy cool title. That title is off the wall.
Yes. But, it's similar to your typical fantasy, like adventure, except Ilka, there's this dark king who made a deal with the dragon that, to keep his power and stuff, he had to sacrifice his virgin daughter, when she became 18 of age. And the dragon would eat it, and then the dragon would protect the king and let the king get some hoarded gold, and the dragon took 99% of it, and the king still had enough that he was like super rich and they were evil. And Ilka's born, and what the king would do is, if you're new to the town and you have not had any children, it is the king's right to impregnate the wife. If you agree, then he'll shower you with some gold, and if you produce a daughter, then you're really showered with some gold and kept nice, and she'll take the daughter, and eventually when she's old enough, she'll be sacrificed. And if you have a boy, he kills it. And then, and you don't get extra gold and things like that. And you still get to live the thing. He doesn't, the king doesn't kill you and stuff. It's like, it's not her fault she didn't have a boy, So he's kind of, quote, honorable that way. But if you refuse to offer your wife, then he kills both of you. Really bad thing. Well, Ilka, conceived that way, and unlike the others who would just, all be all giggly and cute and stuff. She was reading books. She was reading this, learning that. And she realized she had an aptitude for magic, but she had to hide it. So she was pretending to be, Miss Tuppo, and, I'm going to be a warrior and learn, how to combat with a bakai, a sword, and things like that. So she pretends to be a fighter, but she's actually, quote, a wizard. Well, it's time for her sacrifice. And, the dragon is like, ah. And Elka's like, hello. And, this takes the dragon off because she's not screaming, because Ilka is, again, like Sylvia, very intelligent, and, starts making a conversation with the dragon. The dragon is so shocked by this that it's entertained, and after a couple of days, it's like, okay, look, I got to keep my end of the bargain. I need to sacrifice you. I need to destroy your meat. She's like, well, what if you and I made a sub deal? What do you mean? Well, in exchange for my life, what if I got you the best jewel in the kingdom? And he says, all right, you got 3 days to do it. I accept your terms. Why not? Because the dragon was humored by this. So Ilka, goes off and, tells the king, hey, I'm here. Can you get me the jewel? And he throws her out. Ilka goes to, some of the jewelers to try to get the best jewels. And she's shunned by everybody because, she needs to die to keep the kingdom safe. So one bad jeweler makes a decision. He's like, all right, let's make a fake jewel. We'll make it so beautiful, so robust, the idiot will think, ha, it's the best thing ever. She'll return it to the dragon. Dragon will be so enraged she'll be eaten, and our deal will keep going. And, for her trying to trick the dragon. And then the king is like, perfect. So they give Ilka this beautiful, amazing, sensuous jewel, encrusted, it looks amazing, gilded, and it's fake. They basically took gold foil around wood and stuff like that to make it seem heavy, like a heavy oak type wood and things like that, carved it very carefully. And then she went back to the dragon and was like, look at this, I got you the best in the kingdom. And the dragon was enraged, and right before it was about to flame her up, she screams, but what if this is the best jewel in the kingdom? And the dragon stopped, and he looked, and he says, you've been tricked. The deal is broken. The time has passed. You will get on my shoulder. You will watch my wrath. So the dragon then literally burns the town to ash, with Wilka in horror watching. And the dragon goes on a greater rampage, and some holy paladins come to try to fight the dragon off. And they see this girl on there thinking, she's in command of this dragon. She's this dark villain. And she flees. She escapes them and finds this little village and a farmer's market with these two idiots who, don't have a clue between them. But she decides to change her outfit real quick out of the princess outfit and dresses up like a servant girl, and asks the boys if she could help sell. And then she has a crazy idea. Let's build a restaurant. So the one thing, even though these two guys are complete idiots, they are so amazing with cooking that if you and I were at war with each other, we will literally stop up and eat in this place, even if we despise each other because the food is so good. And then we would stop and go back to our fight and continue our war, or we'd end up brokering peace, the cockroach fist. So the one of the guys, thought, a chicken or a rooster with a big fist for his foot would just be awesome. And so that's how it got named, a horrible name. But the deal with the bar is you don't pay money for your food. You got to tell a good story. And that's the premise for the cockroach fist.
If that was a fact, you would never starve.
Right.
You tell amazing stories.
Oh, and you would never starve either because of all the cool stuff you do. You would be like the town crier. You'd go in there, collect all these stories, and then collect other stories from other great places come in. And the reason why these guys are so wealthy is that for bragging rights, some people will leave some of the treasure in this bar to show off. And so the bar has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's, like the size of Mars Cheese Factory. It's just this, maybe about a 10,000 square foot eatery, but you have treasure here and paintings here and chopped off monster head here and all this stuff for all the bride. And nobody fights there. And it turns out that there was a weird spell that happened. No one knows who did it. That if you physically do try to get into a fight, your sword will not unsheath. If you throw a punch, it will just glance in the air. And you can throw insults. You can call me, a dumb mutant radioactive clone or something. Just horrible pejoratives and expletives. But a blow cannot happen. If you try to send something in fire, it won't work. If you try to drown something, it won't work. If you try to punch somebody, it won't work. And, you could be the most heinous, darkest, vilest villain. It will not work. Even if you had a dragon try to step on it, it won't work. And no one knows why. And then that's one of the mysteries of the Cockerel's Fist.
Wow.
And it's going to be an outbook soon. Written by Peter Jones.
That's amazing. Makes your hair stand on end. I got goosebumps when you were talking about that.
Oh, thank you.
I always wonder how the mind can stretch so much how did you learn to become such an amazing storyteller?
The curse of dyslexia.
Wow.
So, with that, I had to learn different ways of thinking. And with English, it was very, very, very difficult. For example, in high school, I had to take English 15 times before I graduated. I barely graduated with a D-. And had I not had to deal with stupid English, then I would have graduated with high honors. But it was just horrible. In fact, I have this one teacher who became principal. I was very grateful for what he did for me. And I got done with my final, and I'm the senior in class. It's the last class, and I turned it in. I feel dejected because I know that it's over, that I failed, and I'll be repeating class, or I'll have to do summer school, but I will not be graduating with my class. And he takes my thing, looks at it, and says, I assume you know that you probably failed. And, of course, I feel mortified with this. And I nod and agree. And he says, I think, though, I looked at your transcripts, and they don't make sense. Your English, everything is bad, but it's almost as if you're a foreigner trying to deal with English. I think you have that, and at the time they didn't understand it. I think you had that psychological disorder, dyslexia. Tell you what, spell the word cat. I'm like, okay, C-A-T. I'm like, I'm confused. And he says, use it in a sentence. I'm like, okay, the cat is fluffy. So Mr. Gamer says, I've decided to give you enough extra credit for answering that properly, showing that you have a good understanding of our language. You're going to graduate in time, pick the script and go far with it. And your art is good. Maybe that would be a good career for you. And eventually that man did become principal. So I took what he said and continued to do art.
That's awesome. Was he your favorite teacher at that point? So inspiring.
No, he was just a teacher. One of my favorites was at that school was Barb Zaria. She was just an amazing human being, very good with art. That's where I became friends with Vince Pross, who has won Emmys for his work. He worked for Star Tunes. I didn't realize this, but he told me that I helped him get the job there. I was like, oh, okay, I also worked with Doug Rice. He may be interviewed by you if he's not teaching at the time of your show. Then, he'll be able to do something later month or October. So we talked about that.
Oh, sure. And you work with Philo.
Yeah. Philo Barnhart is one of the creators of Little Mermaids. He actually worked on developing Ursula, Sebastian, and some of the others, and animated it for the longest of any other person there. He also worked on a few other cool things too, so neat stuff. And
it's interesting. And then you get to collaborate with these other great men who
and women.
Yeah, it's so incredible. Incredible.
It's fun.
I'm really happy that you get to continue to keep doing what you love.
Yeah.
Are you in the works of some new things now?
Yeah. The Cockerel's Fist is first issue is nearly done. I just need to finish lettering it. Issue 3 of Haunting Tales of Bachelor's Grove is nearly done. And that one is loosely based off of Real Cemetery in Illinois, where you have a haunted house, haunted cemetery, and a haunted pond, all in unison, causing mischief and mayhem. So that's an anthology series, so I have different things happen in that. And I'm developing board games. So
That's
I
so
actually have
cool.
5 in the works.
The board game sounds fun. You must be having fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
my gosh.
Um,
And now, is it going to be like a quiz type of board game, or is it going to be more like a journey adventure?
have you ever played Monopoly?
Yes, of course.
Have you ever played Bingo?
Yes.
Imagine 2 mashed together with the feeling of Among Us.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
So
Well,
basically, this game, you
fun.
look an alien or a human, and your deal is you.
Yeah, we're down to like a couple of minutes. Can I get you to come back on and we can share more of your wonderful stories and a lot of the great comics that you've done and the ones that you're working on? Yeah. I really feel like I'm not done interviewing you.
Yes. By the way, I'm going to do something random for Mark.
All right.
All right.
Ooh.
There can people get in touch with you while you're doing that, hon.
Yes. Well, guess what? You have the Ace of Cups as your first card. So things with strong emotions have been happening for you. Things are starting to get into balance with you. And things are actually starting to look up. You've gone through some difficulty lately. The second one is the 5 of Coins. There have been some difficulty with money and finances. But you figured out how to survive and coming that. And then, oh, wow. Right after that is the 4 of Coins, which is really good. So it looks like either more employment or stronger financial opportunities coming back to you. And that's probably what's causing the Ace of Swords, with you feeling better about life and things because you're able to afford what you need to.
Oh, that's awesome. Where can people get in touch with you, hon?
Info, INFO, at silverphoenix.net. Or if they go to Outer Planet Panic, they could click a button and register to be notified by Kickstarter when the board game is ready to go. As I mentioned before, it's a game where you work together to stab each other in the back.
I love that. You have thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really enjoyed this. Everybody, we will see you next Wednesday. Charles, thank you so much. What a great evening we had with you.
You were brilliant, and thank you for all your grace and respect and for the privilege of being on your show.
Very awesome. Very, very great. Thank you. All right. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you next week.